The small town of Meadowbrook was quiet, just like any other day. The sun rose slowly over the hills, painting the sky in soft shades of orange and pink. Birds chirped, and the air smelled fresh, carrying a hint of dew from the grass. It was an ordinary morning for most people, but not for everyone. Today was special. Today something extraordinary was about to happen. A group of visitors had arrived in Meadowbrook, though no one knew exactly how they got there. They looked human, enough at first glance, but if you paid close attention, you might notice subtle differences. Their eyes glowed faintly in dim light, and their skin shimmered slightly under the sun, as though dusted with tiny specks of starlight. These were alien students, sent to Earth as part of an intergalactic exchange program. Their mission was simple: study humans, learn about their culture, and blend into society without causing trouble. Kyle was one of these students. He stood near the edge of the schoolyard, watching the humans around him with wide, curious eyes. He had been assigned to live with the Thompson family, Laura and Ryan, a kind couple in their 40s, and their teenage daughter, Chloe. Kyle found them welcoming, though he couldn't quite understand all their habits yet. For example, why did they eat so many different foods at once? And what was the purpose of this thing called small talk? Chloe noticed Kale standing alone and walked over to him. She smiled warmly, her curly brown hair bouncing as she moved. "Hey, Kale," she said. "You okay?" Kale blinked, his glowing eyes dimming slightly as he tried to process her question. "Yes, I am okay," he replied hesitantly. His voice sounded strange, almost musical, but clear enough for her to understand. "I am just observing." "Observing?" Chloe tilted her head, puzzled. "What are you looking at?" "Everything," Kale admitted. "Humans do many things I do not fully understand. Like..." He gestured toward a group of kids laughing loudly near the basketball court. "Why are they making those noises?" Chloe laughed, covering her mouth with her hand. "Oh, that's just them joking around. You'll get used to it." Kale nodded thoughtfully, though he still seemed confused. Humans were fascinating, but also very strange. He decided to ask more questions later. For now, he followed Chloe to her next class, determined to fit in. Meanwhile, another alien student named Nira was adjusting to her new life with the Martinez family. Unlike Kale, Nira preferred to stay quiet and observe from a distance. She lived with Maria Martinez, a shy high school senior who spent most of her time reading or drawing in her notebook. Nira admired Maria's calmness and wished she could be as relaxed as her host sister. At school, Nira sat quietly in the back of the classroom during lessons. She listened carefully to the teacher, absorbing every word, but she rarely spoke unless spoken to. One day, Maria noticed Nira staring intently at a textbook. "Do you need help with that?" Maria asked softly. Nira looked up, startled. "No, thank you. I already know this information." Maria frowned. "Really? That chapter is pretty advanced." "Yes," Nira replied simply. She didn't want to explain that her species had already mastered much of what humans considered cutting-edge science. Instead, she changed the subject. "Tell me, Maria, why do some students treat others badly here?" Maria sighed, looking down at her desk. "It's complicated. Some people think being mean makes them look cooler or stronger. But it's not right." She paused, then added, "Don't worry too much about it, though. Just focus on your work." Nira nodded, though she remained troubled. Back home, bullying was unheard of. Her people valued harmony above all else. Seeing such behavior here made her uneasy, but she knew she couldn't interfere. Not yet, anyway. As days turned into weeks, both Kale and Nira began noticing patterns in human behavior. At first, everything seemed chaotic. Random bursts of laughter, sudden arguments, awkward silences. But gradually, they started piecing things together. Humans communicated not only with words, but also with gestures, facial expressions, and even tone of voice. Sometimes what someone said didn't match what they truly meant. This concept baffled Kale and intrigued Nira. One afternoon, Kale joined Chloe and her friends at lunch. They sat together under a large oak tree, chatting animatedly about movies, music, and school gossip. Kyle listened intently, trying to follow along. When someone mentioned a popular singer, everyone cheered except for one boy who rolled his eyes and muttered something under his breath. "What does that mean?" Kale whispered to Chloe. "That guy doesn't like the singer," Chloe explained. "He thinks she's overrated." "But why would he say it like that?" Kale pressed. "Why not just say, 'I do not enjoy her music'?" Chloe chuckled. "Because sarcasm is funnier, I guess. People use it to sound cool or clever." Kale frowned. To him, sarcasm felt dishonest. If someone disliked something, shouldn't they say so directly? Humans were indeed perplexing creatures. Later that week, Neera experienced her own moment of confusion during gym class. The students were playing volleyball, and while Neera excelled physically, her reflexes were lightning fast, she struggled to grasp the social dynamics of the game. Some players encouraged each other enthusiastically, while others criticized their teammates harshly. One girl even stormed off the court after missing a serve, leaving the rest of the team frustrated. After class, Maria approached Neera. "Are you all right?" she asked. "You looked really tense out there." "I am fine," Neera assured her. "But I do not understand why some humans criticize others when they make mistakes. Would it not be better to offer support instead?" Maria shrugged. "Yeah, it would. But not everyone thinks that way. Some people just don't know how to handle frustration." Neera considered this explanation but wasn't entirely satisfied. Still, she appreciated Maria's honesty. Slowly, she was beginning to see that humans were flawed, yet capable of kindness. Perhaps there was hope for them after all. Despite their growing understanding of human nature, Kale and Neera faced challenges of their own. Blending in wasn't easy, especially when their differences occasionally slipped through. During a biology lesson, Kale accidentally revealed his enhanced vision by identifying details in a microscope slide that no human eye could possibly detect. The teacher stared at him in disbelief, but luckily Kale managed to play it off as luck. Similarly, Neera once forgot to suppress the faint glow of her skin while walking home from school. A neighbor spotted her and gasped, pointing excitedly. Neera quickly ducked behind a bush until the glow faded, her heart racing. She realized then that maintaining their cover would require constant vigilance. Back at the Thompson house, Kale often found himself drawn to Chloe's curiosity. She bombarded him with questions about his past, his interests, and his thoughts on various topics. At first, Kyle hesitated to answer, fearing he might reveal too much. But as time went on, he grew more comfortable sharing bits and pieces of his world. One evening, Chloe caught Kyle staring at the stars through her bedroom window. "Do you miss your home?" she asked gently. Kyle turned to face her, his glowing eyes reflecting the moonlight. "Sometimes," he admitted, "but I am learning so much here, about humans, about myself." Chloe smiled. "Well, I'm glad you're here. You're definitely making things interesting." Kyle returned her smile, feeling a warmth he hadn't expected. Maybe, just maybe, he could belong here, even if only for a little while. By the end of their first month on Earth, Kale and Neera had made significant progress in adapting to human life. They attended classes, participated in extracurricular activities, and formed tentative friendships with their hosts. Yet beneath the surface, they both sensed that bigger challenges lay ahead. Something about Meadowbrook felt off. There were secrets lurking in the shadows, waiting to be uncovered. And Kale and Neera couldn't shake the feeling that their presence here was no coincidence. Little did they know their journey was only beginning. Kale had always been curious, but his curiosity was about to lead him somewhere unexpected. One evening, after dinner at the Thompson house, he found himself unable to sleep. The night was calm, with only the soft rustling of leaves and the occasional hoot of an owl breaking the silence. Kyle slipped out of bed, careful not to wake Chloe or her parents, and stepped outside into the cool air. His glowing eyes adjusted quickly to the darkness as he wandered toward the edge of the woods that bordered Meadowbrook. The forest had always intrigued him. It was vast and mysterious, filled with sounds and scents unfamiliar to his senses. As he walked deeper into the trees, Something unusual caught his attention. A faint hum, almost like a vibration in the air. To most humans it would have gone unnoticed, but Kale's heightened perception picked it up immediately. Following the sound, he moved cautiously, his heart beating faster with each step. After walking for what felt like hours, Kale stumbled upon a strange sight. Hidden among the trees was a large metallic structure. It looked nothing like the buildings in Meadowbrook. Its surface shimmered faintly, reflecting the moonlight in odd patterns. Kale's instincts told him this wasn't human-made. He approached, slowly, his glowing eyes scanning the area for any signs of danger. Before he could investigate further, a voice startled him. "What are you doing here?" Kale spun around to see a boy standing behind him. The boy was tall and lanky, with messy hair and a wary expression. Kale recognized him from school, Ethan, the kid who often skipped class and spent his afternoons wandering the woods. I heard a noise," Kyle stammered, trying to think of a plausible explanation. "I wanted to see where it came from." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "You shouldn't be out here. This place is dangerous." "Dangerous?" Kyle echoed, glancing back at the structure. "Why? What is it?" Ethan hesitated, then sighed. "It's some kind of government facility. They don't let anyone near it. People say weird stuff happens out here. Lights in the sky, missing animals, even missing people." Kale's mind raced. A government facility? Missing people? Could this have something to do with why he and the other alien students were sent to Earth? He decided to press Ethan for more information. "Do you know what they're doing inside?" Kale asked. Ethan shook his head. "No one knows for sure. But I've seen trucks coming and going at night. Sometimes they bring things that look unnatural, like not from around here." Kale's heart sank. If the facility was experimenting on extraterrestrial objects, or worse, beings, then his mission might be far more complicated than he'd imagined. He thanked Ethan for the warning and hurried back home, his mind buzzing with questions. The next day, Kale shared his discovery with Nira during lunch. They sat together under a tree, away from the noisy chatter of other students. Nira listened intently, her expression growing darker with each word. "We need to find out more," she said firmly. "If they're studying alien technology, or, worse, harming others like us, we can't ignore it." Kyle agreed, though he felt uneasy about getting too involved. "But how? We can't just walk up to the facility and ask questions." Nira thought for a moment. "Maybe Ethan can help. He seems to know more than he's letting on." That evening, Kale and Nira met Ethan at the edge of the woods. He was hesitant at first, unsure why two classmates were so interested in the facility. But when Kale explained their concerns, carefully avoiding revealing their true identities, Ethan softened. "All right," Ethan said finally. "I'll help you check it out, but we have to be careful. If they catch us, we're in big trouble." Together, the three of them planned a secret expedition. Under the cover of darkness, they ventured back into the forest, sticking to the shadows to avoid detection. When they reached the facility, they crouched behind a cluster expression. The three of them, Kyle, Nira, and Ethan, stayed low behind a cluster of bushes near the facility. The air was thick with tension, and the hum Kyle had noticed before seemed louder now, almost vibrating through their bodies. Bright lights illuminated the area around the structure, casting long shadows that danced eerily on the ground. Guards patrolled the perimeter, their flashlights cutting through the darkness like probing eyes. Ethan glanced nervously at Kale and Nira. "We can't just—" "Walk in there," he whispered. "They'll see us." Kale nodded, his glowing eyes scanning the scene. "We need to find another way. Maybe there's a weak spot in their defenses." Nira pointed toward a corner of the building where the light didn't reach as strongly. "Over there. It looks less guarded." Ethan hesitated but followed as Kyle and Nira crept closer to the shadowy area. They moved silently, careful not to step on twigs or rustle leaves. When they reached the wall, Kyle placed his hand against it, feeling for any seams or openings. To his surprise, a small panel slid open under his touch, revealing a narrow passageway. "How did you do that?" Ethan asked, his voice barely audible. Kyle didn't answer. He motioned for them to follow him inside. The corridor was dimly lit, with strange symbols etched into the walls. The air smelled metallic and the hum grew louder with every step. Nira stayed close to Kale, her glowing skin faintly lighting their path. As they ventured deeper, they began to hear muffled voices. Peering around a corner, they saw a group of scientists in white coats gathered around a large glass chamber. Inside the chamber was something, or someone, that made Kale's heart sink. It was an alien, clearly injured, its body connected to wires and tubes. Its once bright glow had dimmed, and its eyes were closed. "They're experimenting on them," Nira whispered, her voice trembling with anger. "This is wrong." Before they could decide what to do next, a loud alarm blared through the facility. Red lights flashed and heavy footsteps echoed down the hallway. Someone had discovered the open panel. "We need to get out of here," Ethan urged, panic rising in his voice. Kale grabbed Nira's hand and the three of them sprinted back the way they came. Guards shouted behind them, their boots pounding against the floor. Just as they reached the exit, one of the guards fired a shot that narrowly missed Kale's shoulder. They burst out into the night, running as fast as they could until they were safely hidden in the woods. Back at the Thompson house, Kale couldn't shake the image of the captive alien from his mind. He paced back and forth in his room, replaying the events over and over. Chloe knocked softly on his door and peeked inside. "Are you okay?" she asked. "You seem upset." Kale hesitated. He wanted to tell her the truth, but he knew it was too risky. Instead, he forced a smile. "I'm fine. Just thinking about school." Chloe didn't look convinced, but she let it go. "Well, if you need to talk, I'm here." After she left, Kale sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the floor. He felt torn. Keeping his secret was becoming harder, especially with Chloe growing more curious by the day. But if he told her, would she believe him? And even if she did, would she be safe? At the Martinez house, Nira faced a similar dilemma. Maria had noticed her agitation during dinner and confronted her about it later. "Is everything all right?" Maria asked gently. "You've been acting strange lately." Nira sighed, sitting down on the couch beside her. "There are things I cannot explain, things you might not understand." Maria frowned. "Try me. I'm a good listener." For a moment, Nira considered telling Maria the truth, but instead she shook her head. "Not yet. Maybe someday." The next morning at school, tensions ran high. Jake, the same boy who had rolled his eyes during lunch weeks earlier, approached Kale in the hallway. "Hey, space boy," he sneered. "What's with the glowing eyes?" Kale froze, his heart racing. He hadn't realized his disguise had slipped, again. Around them, other students stopped to watch, whispering among themselves. Chloe pushed her way through the crowd, stepping between Kale and Jake. "Leave him alone," she snapped. "He hasn't done anything to you." Jake smirked. "Oh, come on, everyone knows he's weird. What's your deal, Kale? Are you some kind of freak?" Kale clenched his fists, trying to stay calm. But the pressure was too much. His glowing eyes flared brightly, startling everyone, including himself. Gasps rippled through the crowd as Kale turned and hurried away, leaving chaos in his wake. Later that day, videos of the incident began circulating online. Students recorded Kale's glowing eyes on their phones and posted them with captions like, "Aliens spotted at Meadowbrook High." The town erupted into panic. Parents demanded answers, and local news stations sent reporters to investigate. Rumors spread like wildfire, and soon the entire community was consumed by fear. Laura Thompson confronted Kale that evening, holding her phone with shaky hands. On the screen was a blurry video of Kale's glowing eyes. "Is this true?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Are you not human?" Kale looked at her, guilt washing over her. He nodded slowly. "Yes, I am not human, but I mean no harm. I came here to learn, to understand your world." To his relief, Laura didn't scream or call the authorities. Instead, she hugged him tightly. "You're still Kyle," she said, firmly. "And you're part of this family now. We'll figure this out together." Meanwhile, Nira confided in Maria after seeing the videos online. Like Laura, Maria reacted with shock, but also compassion. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" she asked. "I was afraid," Nira admitted. "Afraid you wouldn't trust me?" Maria smiled sadly. "I may not understand everything about you, but I know you're a good person. That's all that matters." With their secrets exposed, Kale and Nira knew they couldn't stay hidden any longer. They contacted their home planet using a device concealed in their belongings. The message was simple: "We need help." Days passed and the situation in Meadowbrook grew worse. Armed agents arrived, searching for anyone matching the description of the alien students. Roadblocks were set up and helicopters circled overhead. The town felt like a prison. One night, Kyle and Nira met with Ethan, Chloe, and Maria in the woods. They shared their plan: expose the facility's unethical experiments to the world. Using footage Ethan had secretly recorded during their earlier visit, they hoped to rally the townspeople against the government's actions. "It's risky," Ethan warned. "If we fail, they'll arrest us, or worse. But if we succeed," Nira countered, "we can protect both humans and aliens." Everyone agreed it was worth the risk. Together, they uploaded the footage to social media, tagging journalists and activists across the globe. Within hours, the story went viral. Protests erupted outside the facility gates, with angry residents demanding justice for the captives inside. As dawn broke, the facility's doors opened unexpectedly. Scientists and guards fled in panic, leaving the building unguarded. Kyle, Nira, and their friends seized the opportunity to sneak inside. They found the injured alien still trapped in the glass chamber and worked quickly to free it. With Ethan's help, they disabled the locks and the creature stumbled out, weak but alive. Just as they were about to leave, armed agents stormed the building. "Stop right there!" one of them shouted, raising his weapon. Before anyone could react, a deafening roar filled the sky. A massive spaceship descended, its surface gleaming like liquid silver. Beams of light shot down, enveloping Kale, Nira, and the rescued alien. The agents froze, staring in awe as the ship hovered above them. Kale turned to Chloe, tears in his glowing eyes. "Thank you," he said softly, "for everything." Chloe nodded, unable to speak. As the beam lifted him off the ground, Kale waved goodbye, vowing never to forget the lessons he'd learned on Earth. When the spaceship vanished into the clouds, the crowd outside erupted into cheers. For the first time, humanity glimpsed the vastness of the universe and realized it wasn't alone. Though frightened, many people felt a spark of hope. Perhaps coexistence was possible after all. Back in Meadowbrook, life slowly returned to normal, but nothing would ever be the same. Chloe, Maria, and Ethan often looked up at the stars, wondering if Kyle and Nira were watching too. Somewhere beyond the horizon, their friends were safe, carrying the memory of Earth with them, and deep down, the people of Meadowbrook knew one thing for certain: the universe was far bigger and far stranger than they'd ever imagined. The spaceship hovered above the facility, its presence both awe-inspiring and terrifying. The people of Meadowbrook stood frozen, their eyes glued to the sky. Some clutched each other in fear, while others gazed upward with wonder. The massive vessel shimmered like liquid metal under the morning sun, casting reflections that danced across the ground. It was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. Inside the facility, Kyle, Nira, and their friends were bathed in a soft, warm light as the ship's beams enveloped them. The rescued alien, still weak but visibly relieved, leaned on Kale for support. Ethan glanced around nervously, unsure what would happen next. "Are we going with you?" he asked, his voice trembling. Kale shook his head gently. "No, this is our journey now. But thank you for everything." Nira stepped forward and placed a hand on Maria's shoulder. Her glowing skin pulsed faintly, as if trying to convey something deeper than words. "You showed us kindness when we needed it most," she said softly. "We will never forget that." Maria nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. She wanted to say something meaningful, but no words came. Instead, she hugged Nira tightly, holding on as if letting go might erase the connection they'd formed. Chloe stood beside Kale, her hands balled into fists to keep them from shaking. "Will we ever see you again?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Kale smiled warmly, his glowing eyes dimming slightly as he looked at her. "Maybe someday, but even if we don't, know that you've changed my life forever. You've shown me the best of humanity." Before Chloe could respond, the beam grew brighter, lifting Kyle, Nira, and the rescued alien higher into the air. They floated gracefully toward the ship, their figures becoming smaller and smaller until they disappeared inside. The hatch closed with a soft hiss and the ship began to ascend, leaving behind a trail of golden light. As the spaceship vanished into the clouds, the crowd outside erupted into chaos. Some cheered, overwhelmed by the miracle they had just witnessed. Others cried, grappling with the enormity of what had happened. Reporters shouted questions at anyone willing to speak, their cameras flashing non-stop. The protests against the facility turned into celebrations, though the mood remained bittersweet. Ethan, Chloe, and Maria stayed together, watching silently as the last remnants of the ship faded from view. None of them spoke for a long time, each lost in their own thoughts. Finally, Ethan broke the silence. "Do you think they'll be okay?" Chloe nodded slowly. "Yeah, I think they're stronger than we realize," Maria added. "And smarter, too. They'll figure things out." Though they tried to reassure themselves, there was an undeniable emptiness in the air. Kyle and Nira had become such a big part of their lives, even if only for a short time. Saying goodbye felt like losing a piece of themselves. Over the next few days, Meadowbrook struggled to return to normalcy. The facility was shut down permanently, its secrets exposed to the world. Journalists flooded the town, eager to interview anyone connected to the alien students. Laura Thompson and Ryan Martinez became local heroes for protecting Kale and Nira, while Chloe, Maria, and Ethan found themselves thrust into the spotlight. But fame wasn't what they wanted. All three of them missed their alien friends deeply. Chloe often stared out her bedroom window at night, imagining Kyle looking back at Earth from wherever he was. Maria spent hours drawing pictures of Nira, capturing every detail she could remember. And Ethan wandered the woods alone, hoping, perhaps foolish him. The days following the signing of the agreement were filled with cautious optimism. The Krill and the Vorth had agreed to work together, but everyone knew that peace wasn't something that could be achieved overnight. It would take time, effort, and constant vigilance to ensure the fragile truce didn't collapse under the weight of old grievances. The humans, though eager to return home, stayed aboard the alien ship for a little while longer to help oversee the initial stages of implementation. Laura Hayes led the team as they worked alongside the aliens, ensuring that every detail of the agreement was followed. Emily Brooks reviewed resource distribution plans, double-checking calculations to make sure both sides received their fair share. Sarah Mitchell acted as a mediator during discussions, her understanding of alien languages proving invaluable in smoothing over misunderstandings. Michael Ross tended to minor injuries and health concerns, making sure everyone stayed physically well during the stressful transition period. And Daniel Carter continued his efforts to build personal connections, finding small ways to bridge the gap between the Krill and the Vorth. One morning, Laura gathered the team in their quarters for a quick meeting before heading to the chamber where negotiations were still ongoing. "We've made incredible progress," she began, her voice calm but firm. "But we can't let our guard down yet. The hardest part isn't agreeing to peace, it's maintaining it." Emily nodded, tapping on her tablet. "I've been monitoring the resource-sharing process. So far, so good. Both sides are sticking to the plan, but tensions are still high." Sarah added, "Their body language is improving, though. The Vorth aren't coiling defensively as much, and the Krill have stopped clicking their mandibles aggressively. That's a positive sign." Michael chimed in. "Physically, everyone seems okay. Stress levels are high, but manageable. I've been keeping an eye on them." Daniel leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "What about trust? Are They actually starting to trust each other? Laura sighed softly. It's too early to say. Trust takes time. But they're talking directly now, instead of through us. That's progress. The team dispersed after the meeting, each member heading to their assigned tasks. As they entered the chamber, the Krill and the Vorth were already seated, reviewing the latest updates on resource extraction. The atmosphere was tense but not hostile. The two ambassadors exchanged glances occasionally, their expressions guarded, but not angry. Laura stepped forward, addressing both sides. Good morning. How are things progressing? The Krill ambassador tilted its head slightly. Acceptable. Your methods appear efficient. The Vorth leader flicked its tongue once, its scales shimmering faintly. Efficient, yes, but efficiency alone will not sustain this arrangement. Cooperation requires more than numbers. That's true, Laura agreed. Cooperation requires understanding, and understanding starts with communication. She gestured toward Daniel, who had begun working closely with junior delegates from both sides. Daniel has been helping facilitate conversations between your teams. Have you noticed any changes? Young Krill delegate clicked its mandibles softly. They speak differently now. Less hostility, more curiosity. A Vorth representative nodded, its scales shifting to a softer hue. Curiosity is better than fear. Laura smiled faintly. Exactly. Curiosity leads to understanding, and understanding leads to trust. As the day wore on, the humans continued their work, observing interactions and stepping in only when necessary. They encouraged the Krill and the Vorth to solve problems themselves, offering guidance rather than solutions. Slowly, the two sides began to rely less on the humans and more on each other. During one break, Laura found herself standing near a large viewport, staring out at the endless expanse of stars. The Krill ambassador joined her, its tall, insect-like form casting a long shadow across the floor. You look troubled, it said, its voice low and metallic. Laura shook her head. Not troubled, just reflective. This is a big moment for all of us. I want to make sure we're doing everything we can to support you. The ambassador clicked its mandibles thoughtfully. You have done much, perhaps more than you realize. You have shown us that enemies can become allies. That hatred can transform into hope. Laura turned to face the creature, meeting its multifaceted eyes. Hope is powerful, but it's fragile too. It needs nurturing, protecting. We understand, the ambassador replied, and we will try. Later that evening, the Vorth leader approached Laura as she reviewed data logs with Emily. Its sleek body moved gracefully, its scales shimmering with a pale green hue. Your species fascinates me, it said, its voice soft and measured. You are small yet capable of great things. Laura smiled faintly. We're just people, trying to do what's right. Sometimes we succeed, sometimes we fail, but we keep trying. The Vorth leader coiled its body slightly, studying her closely. That is admirable. Perhaps there is wisdom in persistence. Perhaps, Laura agreed. Or maybe it's just stubbornness. The Vorth leader hissed softly, a sound that might have been laughter. Stubbornness or wisdom, both are valuable traits. As the days passed, the humans prepared to leave the alien ship and return to Earth. Their mission was complete, but their work wasn't entirely done. They had planted seeds of peace, but it would be up to the Krill and the Vorth to nurture them. Before departing, Laura addressed both sides one final time. You've taken the first steps toward a new future, she said, her voice steady. It won't always be easy. There will be challenges, disagreements, moments of doubt. But remember why you started this journey. Remember the hope you felt when you chose peace over war. The Krill ambassador clicked its mandibles softly. We will remember. The Vorth leader flicked its tongue once. And we will honor your efforts. With that, the humans boarded their vessel, leaving the alien ship behind. As they traveled back to Earth, the team reflected on everything they had experienced. They had faced impossible odds, navigated complex emotions, and forged connections with beings vastly different from themselves. It had been exhausting, challenging, and sometimes frightening, but it had also been deeply rewarding. Back on Earth, news of the successful intervention spread quickly. People celebrated in streets and squares, waving flags and lighting fireworks. Laura and her team were hailed as heroes, though they remained humble about their role. "We didn't do it alone," Laura reminded everyone during a press conference. "The Krill and the Vorth made the choice to change. We just helped show them it was possible." In the weeks that followed, emissaries from both alien species arrived on Earth to continue rebuilding their relationship. They marveled at human achievements, from towering skyscrapers to intricate works of art. They learned about Earth's history, its struggles and triumphs, and how humanity had overcome divisions within its own ranks. One evening, Laura stood in her backyard, gazing up at the stars. Daniel joined her holding 2 cups of coffee. He handed one to her and smiled. "Do you think it'll last?" he asked. "I don't know," Laura admitted. "But I believe it can. They've taken the first steps. Now it's up to them to keep moving forward." Daniel nodded, sipping his coffee. "Either way, we gave them a chance. That's something." "It's everything," Laura replied. She turned her gaze back to the stars, feeling a quiet sense of hope. The galaxy was vast, full of mysteries and challenges yet to be faced. But for now, at least, it felt a little brighter, a little less daunting. And as the night stretched on, Laura allowed herself to believe in the possibility of peace, in the resilience of life, and in the power of small actions to create big changes.